The Sumadera family sure moved quickly. Did Okonogi-san sell me out? Oh, you're joking. He's my client. If he sold you out, he wouldn't have hired me, right? I guess that's true. So that's why you got off the elevator at the 3rd floor. Having a car waiting in the underground parking lot was suspiciously well organized of him, you see. I thought that he might have sold me out. Although at this point it's impossible to prove whether there was an ambush set up in the parking lot or not. Right. Damn, the poor guy. You look like you didn't have your trust, Miss. Looks like he didn't have your trust, Missy. That car in the basement was mine. He was talking about you. I freaked out when the elevator was empty. If I hadn't been able to listen in on the radio, who knows what would have happened by now. So what? If I had obediently believed Okonogi-san and gone to the parking lot, there would have been no need for me to do that jump off the 3rd floor. Pretty much. Well, it turned out alright in the end. Well, that's something. If I hadn't suspected President Okonogi, I could have easily escaped without getting caught in a tough spot. President Okonogi might have sold me out. No, because paranoia told me that it was better to suppose that he sold me out. I assumed and decided that he did. Because I wasn't able to believe him. My truth, regardless of his truth, became he sold me out. E questo ovviamente sì, esatto. I fought back on President Okonogi's words. Can you really call truth if it isn't absolute? Truth can change completely depending on whether you have love or not. In the end, perhaps this thing called truth doesn't exist. As each person who speaks of it, another truth is born from their interpretations, and that's all there is to it. If I can't accept something that indeterminate as truth, then where does the truth that I really want to find exists? And if that something can be seen with the eyes, and is that okay? Mamma mia. Con calma. And is that something that can be seen with the eyes? I might be surprised to discover that even if the truth is thrust in front of me, it may be something that I cannot see. Without love, it cannot be seen, is it? This fragment of yours is very lively. It doesn't bore me. You said to me, you told me to search for the truth of 12 years ago. But I feel like it's not really clear to me anymore. What isn't? What is truth? There are as many truths as there are people. There are as many interpretations as there are people, and those can be twisted by opinions and change indefinitely. Is truth really that indeterminate and vague? It is. Truth is indeterminate. It can be like a particle or like a wave, and it can hold conflicting forms at the same time. You are free to believe that the cat in the box is alive or that is dead. But the truth is very delicate. It changes its appearance just by being observed. You're talking about Schrödinger's cat box. Nonsense. If you open the box, you learn the truth. Debating what happens before you open it is an armchair theorizing at best. Yes, and yet, in order to deny those armchair theories, you need to open the box. If a box cannot be opened, any and all ideas about its contents are impossible to disprove. In other words, truth. As long as truth can't be denied, it keeps its form. That's right. As long as truth can't be observed, it keeps its form. So, any reckless statement can suffice as truth if it can't be exposed as a lie. Yes, even if they contradict each other, endless ideas can exist as truth at the same time without being negated. So, even something as screwed up as my family being captured by the Rokkenjima witch and imprisoned 12 years in the past for all eternity can exist as truth as long as we don't know what happened 12 years ago. 12 years ago, on Rokkenjima, the witch called Beatrice wrenched open a space for endless imagination and swallowed everything up into it, using it as a cat box. Everything in the unopening box is truth. That's right. We don't know what happened on that island, so it becomes endless. So as long as it remains closed, that is, all I have to do is wrench it open. But that cat box was closed up 12 years ago, and I don't even know where it is. Even if we were to visit Rokkenjima, just what would I be able to learn there on that desolated island about what happened 12 years ago? Who knows? What you could learn, I wonder. In any event, that is something that can only be done by the person who is able to walk freely in the world of 1998, 12 years in the future. The final witch, ENG Beatrice. Aspetta un secondo, Beatrice Games Boat spans the 2 days of October 4th and 5th of 1986. In other words, it means that you are a piece who can freely move outside her game board. And even Beatrice cannot influence this future that lies outside the game board. And you put it like that, it seems like I'm a pretty overpowered piece. The future of 12 years later in which you are placed certainly is distant. However, the further in the future a piece is placed, the stronger the power it holds. I told you, didn't I? The truth changes from form when it's observed. Come to think of it, I've heard something related to that. Even if one day, all of a sudden, a star in Centaurus were to explode, the light from that explosion would have to travel 4.4 light years, so it would take us 4.5 years to reach the Earth. It would. In other words, even if the sun in Centaurus had already died, people on Earth wouldn't be able to perceive that fact for 4.5 years. Because no method of perception exists that is faster than the speed of light. At the time we learned that the sun in Centaurus exploded, we Earth people will paint over our past 4.5 years of history with a new truth. We will revise history with a new fact that it exploded 4.5 years ago. However, the 4.5 year period until we learn that, despite the fact that it has already died, the mistaken truth that the sun in Centaurus still exists will be able to exist as truth. The truth of the future wins over the truth of the past. That's right. By itself, the Rokkenjima accident would have given rise to nothing but suspicions of murder plot revolving around Aunt Eva and the Ushiromiya estate. But in the years that followed, it was dramatized through the occult and the plot was painted over as the legend of the witch. Even though it was clamored over as a murder plot at the time of the incident, in later years strange occult theories which claimed that it had been the work of a witch ran rampant and began to paint over the truth of October 5th, 1986. The murder theory will probably be forgotten over time, and only the most bizarre, impressive witch theory will continue to remain a superstition and eventually paint over the murder theory entirely. Yes. The false truth that exists before the light from an exploding star reaches Earth is a lot like the human murder theory. The wine bottle. Ecco, questa era una cosa che stavo pensando se ricordarvelo o meno, perché volevo fare una cosa ad effetto, però ormai se la tira fuori Enge, ne riparliamo. The wine bottle with a letter inside had drifted ashore several years later. The message bottle began to retroactively paint over the theory with the occult witch theory. Solo nel finale di episodio 1, esatto, mamma mia, ma Giove, hai una memoria di ferro. Solo nel finale di episodio 1 viene citato che Maria ha scritto questa lettera e l'ha messa dentro una bottiglia per far raggiungere la verità, però sappiamo che non può essere la verità, perché in episodio 1 Eva muore. Maria quando è che l'ha scritta sta lettera? Maria sì, è rimasta fino alla fine, l'ha scritta, alla fine rimangono, no, i ragazzi e Beatrice. Quando avrebbe avuto tempo di scrivere questa lettera? E perché scrivere una storia falsa? Vabbè, Maria perché ok, è strega e tutto il resto, però Maria è morta poi. Che mistero. That's right. No witch existed during 1986. The witch took control of Rokkenjima because she was observed several years later by us humans of the future, thanks to that message bottle. A small revision is necessary. The witch could have existed even during 1986, as one of many endless possibilities. Jover. Certainly. Curled up in the cat box which would disappear if observed. That's why the message bottle is so pernicious. The witch tried to get out of the box. She made it so that she would be observed, weeding out all possibilities other than the witch theory. In other words, to make it impossible for herself to be negated, she negated all possibilities other than the witch theory. Well, I'll be damned. So in other words, Beatrice satisfied the devil's proof with a frontal attack. That was part of the witch's plan from the very beginning. The message bottle is information observed in the future after 1986. It cannot be observed by Beatrice or Battler. It can only be observed by ENG Beatrice. In truth, I didn't want to investigate the message bottle. After all, reading it would be listening to the witch's side of the story. Since I've been ignoring all that mad raving about the witch theory, I thought of it as nothing more than a waste of time. But Okonogi-san told me, you can't see things in 3 dimensions with only one eye. You mean that at the same time as looking at it from the viewpoint of the 9 witches, you must also look at it from the viewpoint of accepting witches? That is the correct way to think. The number of viewpoints is like a denominator. If the number of the viewpoints is 1, the mystery in the enumerator doesn't decrease in the slightest. However, the more your number of viewpoints increases, the more the mystery begins to be divided. I know that. The message bottle that washed up on a neighboring island several years after the crime, it passed into the hands of a dilettante. I've made an appointment, just in case. I was able to hear Aunt Eva's side from Okonogi-san. Next would be the witch. Why not? I'll listen to what Beatrice has to say. Red truth, blue truth? Attenzione, the first day. Ok. Oh sì. Red truth, blue truth. 3 months left to live. It was last year when you said that, Dr. Nanjo. I only spoke of what I have determined from his overall physical condition at the time. As a result, he had just worked out that this year he has, despite the doubts being cast on whether father can make it to the end of the year, the fact that that even now he's still enthusiastically immersed in his occult research, you still would say that he only has 3 months left, Doctor. As I've been saying, Kinzo-san's... It is not wonderful that our respected father still has his vitality. Out of our parental respect, all of you desire to greet father so badly that you scarcely know what to do with yourselves. So you cannot accept the fact that he will not see you. Given that you have all begun to prematurely divide up in the inheritance while the sun is still in the sky, I completely understand why is it that father does not wish to see you. You've got it wrong, Natsuine-san. We've just... Not even Dad is immortal. He's gonna die someday. We aren't telling him to die, we're just saying that he will die someday. And we're just talking together about how to prepare for that. And that is precisely why it is disrespectful. Stop it. You'll make your headache worse. Kraus told Natsui, who had risen from her chair in agitation, to sit down. Trying to smooth over the atmosphere, which had suddenly started crackling with hostility, Hideyoshi put on a cordial smile and motioned for everyone to calm down. Oh, ciao Dabi! Tranquillo, adesso siamo in un punto non spoiler, quindi va bene. Grazie per essere passato, bacioni. Su YouTube ti dico solo che ho caricato fino a tutto episodio 3, quindi questo è il secondo episodio di episodio 4. Niente, solo per dirti che puoi recuperarti praticamente quasi tutto, ecco. Bene, ciao Dabi. Andiamo. Ok, beh, perfetto. Non leggere, esatto, non leggere niente. Sto zitto anche un secondo. Aspetto che magari Dabi se ne vada, perché adesso sto per leggere qualcosa di spoiler ad alta voce. Ma intanto mi leggo Ciao Dabi, ciao, grazie di essere passato. Mi dispiace mandarti via, ma è per il tuo bene. Ok, hai ragione Jover, hai ragione nell'ultimo messaggio che hai scritto. Non abbiamo la certezza che sia lo stesso. Io sto solo assumendo che lo sia perché è comparso alla fine di episodio 1. Natsui-san, don't get us all wrong. Doesn't this country have a proverb? A departing bird leaves the nest unsoiled? So we're just talking about seeing that bird off. We are discussing this so we can see father off cleanly when he eventually leaves on the inevitable journey. That's just like you, Hideyoshi-san. Even though you're saying the same thing, you make it sound so intellectual. Yeah, that's right. Unlike you, Nissan. Stop it. You won't get us anywhere. So, like we're saying, Aniki, We can just forget all about the inheritance. Doesn't matter if Dad hits us. To make a long story short, all we want to do is meet Dad directly and say hello. Even if Dad says he doesn't want to, if he's locked up in his study, we'll borrow a key from Genji-san if we have to. Right, Rosa? It's not like we are forcing you. It's just we haven't said hello to father in such a long time. If his remaining life really is this short, then there's even a chance we might never be able to see him again. Today might be our final opportunity to exchange words with father. Yes, just like Rosa says, you do realize that he only has 3 months left. It wouldn't be odd for him to pass away any time now. And you're telling us we don't even have the right to talk with him one last time? I think that is a bit too much, don't you? If the conversation you're all intended to have with father really was a greeting, I'm sure he will see you gladly. But father has already heard exactly what kind of disrespectful topic you have lowered yourself to. Father would be the only one who would prefer not to see you in under such conditions. If you wish to blame anyone for father not seeing you, you need look no further than yourselves. Wouldn't you say so? Exactly. I should think you will be able to understand why father doesn't wish to see your faces without racking your brains over it. Father has been through all of your strained financial situations. What are you talking about? I don't have a clue what you're going on about, Nissan. Do you think I don't know about all of your circumstances? Eva and the rest realized that he had seen through the dire straits they were in, and they entered into a back-and-forth argument, at first putting on a bold front and denying it, and then ultimately returning to the original point and objecting by repeatedly demanding to be allowed to see Kinzo. The sweet smell of the black tea Rosa had gone out of her way to buy had been completely wasted. The only good thing she could take away from this was that the children weren't here to see it. The fact that they had gone to play at the beach right after lunch was the sole redeeming aspect. Comunque mi piace come, nonostante siano sempre gli stessi eventi all'inizio, no? Se ci pensate, arrivano, salutano tutti quanti, cioè sempre Goda all'inizio che li accoglie alla nave, poi salendo incontrano Kumasawa, Kanon che è fuori che lavora, poi entrano dentro, si sistemano e dopo ci sarà sempre il pranzo e dopo il pranzo ci discutono sempre. Ma la cosa che mi piace è che ogni volta le discussioni cambiano. In episodio 1 era una cosa, in episodio 2 era un'altra, in episodio 3 un'altra ancora. Cioè se ci pensate, in questo si stanno incentrando su incontrare Kinzo. Nel 3 c'è stata tutta quanta la parte di Beatrice, se fosse viva o meno. Rosa raccontava del fatto che lei l'avesse uccisa quando era una bambina, e poi c'è stato tutto quanto il casino sul come si chiama? Sull'epitaffio della strega. Nel secondo si erano concentrati su Beatrice umana, anche perché è arrivata effettivamente sull'isola la Beatrice con la casual outfit, e nell'episodio 1 invece avevano completamente ignorato l'esistenza della strega. Quindi anche se gli eventi sono gli stessi e sono sostanzialmente tagliuzzati di episodio in episodio, perché si restringe sempre di più questa parte, mi piace che sì, si possono esplorare cose diverse nelle stesse identiche situazioni. Okay. Eva was attempting to get violent with Kraus, and Hideyoshi and Kirie cut in between them, trying to calm both sides. Then Kirie sighed deeply and spoke. I'm sorry, Kraus-san. I know I'm an outsider, but I wonder if you would let me speak for a moment. I have a proposition. What is it, Kirie-san? First, and this includes my husband as well, for many years we have made light of the efforts you have made by living with father and taking care of him. Don't you think so? Well, I guess so. We got it easy since we get to go out into the world, but Aniki has been babysitting father for decades now. I'm sure that must have taken a lot of effort. I'll accept that, but what's your point, Kirie? We must acknowledge that Kraus-san is father's caregiver. Isn't that true? He has always feared father, and we have been pushing the task of taking care of him onto Kraus-san. I believe everyone here would acknowledge his efforts. Wouldn't you, Eva-san? So what? Nissan's his father's caregiver. Who is an outsider like you to decide things? Okay, calm. Kirie-san, what are you talking about? Kirie, please continue. We should be more grateful towards Kraus-san and Natsui-san. We should say thank you for always taking care of father. It's because we have no feelings of gratitude that we have these unproductive clashes. Isn't that right, Raus? Isn't that right, Kraus-san? Oh, now this is a surprise. I do not think you will be able to understand our efforts, which even my true siblings have not stopped to consider. It is the natural duty for the successor to the Ushiromiya family head. Yes, it is a responsibility of the successor to the head, isn't it? And it's precisely because you've taken care of father that we must acknowledge you as the successor. Eva, appunto. Excuse me? Am I going to be consulted on this at any point? You outsider, what gives you the... Wait, Aniki. She's right. It's just like Kirie says. You are the successor, Aniki, because you're taking care of dad. It's just like you said. Rosa noticed, and then Eva too. Eva, barking demeanor towards Kirie for advancing the discussion on her role, disappeared in a flash, and she instead stared at Kraus and Natsui. Natsui couldn't understand that sudden change and was slightly frustrated. Kraus-san, if you would accept just a few conditions, we won't ask to let us meet father again until he dies. Of course, we won't tell you to let us see him at the moment of death either. We could even be absent at the funeral. Flustered. Aspetta. Mi leggere. Ah, ok. Couldn't understand. It was slightly flustered. Ok. Grazie, Jover. Oh? I haven't a clue what this is about. But very well, I will humor you. Tell me the conditions. First, the term successor to the head refers to the caregiver of the current head, Ushiromiya Kinzo. Go on. Second, the duty of the caregiver is to look after Ushiromiya Kinzo for the rest of his life. To make things simple, the caregiver's job is to take care of him until his final moment. You were prepared to do that from the beginning, Kraus-san, so there are no problems. Naturally. I have no objections whatsoever to either of those conditions. I am already carrying them out. Third, in the remote chance that the caregiver is neglectful in his responsibility of supervision, he will be stripped of his rights as a caregiver. With that sentence, all slack disappeared from Kraus' face. Natsui alone was still having trouble understanding what it meant. And this responsibility of supervision that the caregiver bears, just what exactly are they? It means supervising so that father can live in good health until the end of his natural lifespan. I'll go into more detail. In the case that father dies anything other than a natural death, the caregiver will be stripped of his rights as a caregiver and will lose his rights of successor to the head. In that situation, the next highest rank, Eva-san, is to be selected as the successor. What did you say? How dare you speak such nonsense? My, a caregiver responsibility is grave indeed. However, people can die in many ways. For example, an old and infirm sometimes die by getting food caught in their throats. I have no doubt that this would ordinarily fall under the broad definition of death by old age. But with your argument, that would become a death by accident, and I would be made to bear the responsibility as supervisor. This is unjustly disadvantageous to me. I don't have the slightest intention of splitting hairs in such a way. The kinds of things that I'm imagining are just things that the caregiver could have prevented before by taking good care of father and keeping their eyes on him. It may be the caregiver's job to carry food to father's mouth, but whether he swallows it down or is clearly outside or not, is clearly outside the caregiver's responsibility. I have absolutely no problems with the case you raised, Kraus-Nissan. Then what kind of case do you imagine would cause this caregiver to be blamed for making a blunder? For example, if he disappeared. Father seems to be sound of mind right now, but he could lose the ability for rational thought and decision making at any moment, and he would come as no surprise. He could wander around when you aren't looking and get into some kind of accident, or he could get lost in the forest and go missing, never to be found again. Isn't this the type of case clearly the responsibility of the caregiver? Father's mind is perfectly healthy. Of all things, what an outrageous... You might say that one day, suddenly, when you saw father going to the forest, you chased after him, but you couldn't find him. Despite calling the police and searching, 7 years passed, unable to find him, and after that time, a court declared him legally dead. I'm trying to say that we won't accept that kind of series of events. When father passes away, an autopsy must be carried out, and he must verify that he died of old age and in the most general meaning, within the bounds of common sense. A death for any other reason will be held as the caregiver's responsibility. See? There's nothing more or less the same, they're nothing more or less the same. See, they're nothing more or less than the things you have already been toiling at up until today. There aren't strange conditions or anything of the sort, right? Mocking us, insulting us. I find it difficult to imagine why my husband must be coerced into a role that disgraces him in this way. Actually, I've been suspecting it since last year. No, everyone here probably suspects it. Eva-san, Hideyoshi-san, Rudolph-san, and Rosa-san too. Everyone has suspected it the whole time. But it would be dreadful to imagine that no one actually said it. I see. So this is what you're trying to say? The father is already dead, and I have been hiding it. Yeah, that's right. This is one of the theories I thought of as the key of solving the final mystery in the previous game. You mean the last game in the previous game? The mystery of who killed Dr. Nanjo? Yeah. The witch definitely did say a lot in red. She mentioned the names of all 18 people and announced whether they were alive or dead, and stated that there are no more humans than that. But with this theory, I can weave my way through that gap. I see. So this is one of the answers that you don't cause the two to contradict. I see. You understand what I'm getting at? You catch on pretty quickly, don't you? It's nice that I don't have to explain. No 90th person exists on this island. But this gimmick let us mix in an unknown new person X despite that. Basically, the number of all 18 people just have to not match the 18 people on the island. Exactly. In red, the witch mentioned that the names of 18 people one after another and announced whether they were alive or dead. On top of that, she declared that the number of humans on the island doesn't exceed 18. There was a single illusion in there. I was never guaranteed that the 18 names equals the 18 people on the island. When the names of the 18 people, when she named off all 18 people and announced who was alive and who was dead, she kept the name of the culprit X hidden and instead mixed in someone who isn't on this island. By doing that, even though the culprit is on the island, she was able to leave him or her out of the list of the 18 people alive or dead. The person who was mixed in isn't on the island, so it doesn't count towards the number of the total number of people on the island. Therefore, even though the culprit counts towards the total of 18 people on the island, it was possible for his or her name not to be listed. The two statements in red are completely independent, so the theory has no contradictions. The name which is used to hide the name of the culprit has several conditions to fulfill. First of all, it has to be someone who isn't on the island and yet we believe to be on the island. Otherwise, she will be able to trick us. It would be preferable for that person to be dead. After all, no alibi exists that is more perfect than death. Beatrice, because the mystery at that point was based on the crime being impossible for all 18 people. Something like that? Yeah, that's it. And that person was grandfather. What Kirie-san is trying to say right now is just one simple thing. We've been told that grandfather is locked up in his study, saying that he doesn't want to meet with anyone. But there is the possibility that he's actually already dead, and that Uncle Kraus is lying when he claims that he is alive. That's right. Grandfather has been closed up in his room the whole time, and no one has seen his face. Maybe he's already dead, and Uncle Kraus and the rest are conspiring together to trick everyone into believing he's alive. If Kinzo dies, the distribution of the inheritance occurs. However, if Kinzo doesn't die, no, if he dies but it isn't announced, the distribution of the inheritance doesn't occur. In other words, Uncle Kraus could have all of grandfather's wealth to himself. That's right, he's got plenty of motive. E se devo corroborare questa teoria, pensiamo a chi è che ha visto Kinzo fino adesso. A parte i momenti in cui c'è Beatrice, ma togliamo i momenti magici. Chi è che in tutti questi 3 episodi, fino adesso, chi è che si è incontrato con Kinzo? Solo come si dice? I domestici e Natsu. Perché solo Nanjo, Genji e Kanon e Shannon, mi ricordo, e Natsui si sono incontrati di persona con Kinzo. Se seguiamo il nostro filologico del se non c'è nessuno che ti dice che cosa succede. Cioè, se abbiamo solo il punto di vista di una persona e non un'idea, come si dice, imparziale delle cose, una vista imparziale delle cose, se dobbiamo seguire solo il punto di vista di una persona sola, può mentire e può esserci mostrato che è una menzogna. Tutto il discorso di Eva che sta male a letto, oh mio Dio, tienimi la mano, sì, amore mio, e degli Yoshi, era una stronzata. Lei era fuori che stava ammazzando Maria e Rosa. Però questo ci è stato mostrato. Come? Adesso dico lì, se Kinzo è morto sin dall'inizio, Natsui che vede Kinzo che gli dice: oh mio Dio Natsui, tu sei la più bella di tutte, sei la più figa, sei veramente, gli altri avranno anche l'aquila sui loro vestiti, ma tu ce l'hai impressa nel cuore, perché tu sei quella più, la vera, minchia, se solo Kraus fosse stato donna e tu un uomo, avrei avuto l'erede perfetto. Cioè è Natsui che si sta facendo le seghe in quel momento. Cioè abbastanza diretto. E sì, questo vuol dire, cioè, noi sappiamo che Nanjo sta collaborando con Natsu e Kraus fin da episodio 2. È vero. Quindi questo fila perfettamente. Perfettamente. E c'è, come dice Battler, perfetto motivo. Cioè una motivazione perfetta per non dire che Kinzo è morto. Sure, maybe the 90th person X really doesn't exist on this island. But the person X did exist, and that person was the 18th person. In other words, there were originally 70 people on this island, not 80. Mamma mia, singhiozzo adesso. Not 18. Then an unknown person X snuck in and committed the crime. How's that, Beato? Get your ass out here. I just saw the final biggest mystery from the last game. As Battler declared that forcefully, the crisp sound of clapping came out of nowhere and the surroundings turned bright, becoming the usual witch's tea room. Luke, king of relazioni parasociali.
Bravo, bravo!
I cannot deny the sense of it being long overdue, but in any event, despite your incompetence, you have managed to produce a single answer. Cessation of thought is possible even for a lump of concrete. So you have now finally evolved into a being with intelligence. You could say you've finally taken a step towards forward from the crying creature that you were before, just licking my shoes and grinding your teeth. I can't believe I let this stupid wordplay make a fool out of me the last game. My lameness pisses me off even more. Alright, Beato. Time for a repetition request. Io devo imparare a dire Fuchojo Kiru, non lo so cosa dice. Repetition request. Declare that grandfather is included in the 18 people on this island, if you can. Yeah, not in a million years, because he's already dead. This is the end of your deception! Adesso arriva con Kinzo fa parte del... Well now, what do we have here? Shall I slice that in twain with the red truth? No, it might also be good to hold back for now and let you get all excited. If I'm going to push you off a cliff anyway, it would be much more interesting to lure you into a higher place first. As Beato sneered obnoxiously, it even looked to me as she was still searching for the perfect expression to tick me off even more, as though she was saying that the answer I finally reached was entirely too ridiculous. In contrast to my visible annoyance with the witch's attitude, Gretel had a blank and composed expression on her face, almost as though she had expected the witch to act that way. I see. So just like Battler learns and grows, so does the witch. Strong Beato, quit stalling. Can you repeat it or not? Answer. Stop it, Battler. The witch won't answer so easily, as long as she doesn't think it will benefit her. What do you mean? Because we've been at the mercy of this red truth in the game so far, the witch has used it over and over again. But now, the situation is different. You are luring the red truth out, and you are instead using it as your weapon. In a situation like that, there's no way the witch will keep firing off the red without reason, right? Gretel, whoever you are, it seems that you are quite sharp, unlike Battler. I have welcomed in a fearsome enemy. That is correct. When Battler is expecting me to use the red truth, why do I have to I have a responsibility to answer to his expectations? I have no such thing. I don't even have a crumb from your croissant you ate this morning, Worthy, or responsibility to please you. Yes, oh yes, that's the face. I started playing with red truth just because I wanted to see that face. I cannot witness that expressions of yours, then I have no reason whatsoever to play around. Io adesso, piccola parentesi, ho visto questo meme su Twitter l'altro giorno. Avete presente il meme delle 3 persone sul divano, no? Che sono così. Aspetta, sono così. E dopo succede qualcosa e tutti quanti fanno così, no? E c'erano 3 Beatrici sedute così. E dall'altra parte c'era Battler che faceva e ovviamente tutte quante completamente impassibili. E dopo c'era Battler che stava tipo con questa faccia oppure che stava piangendo, le robe, ed erano tutte super eccitate al riguardo. Niente, volevo solo dirlo perché è perfetto per questa scena, è esattamente quello che sta succedendo. You're just being a sore loser, aren't you? If you think you can just say a bunch of crap to trick me because you can't respond to my repetition request, it's not gonna work. Don't be so full of yourself. An answer like that I could cut into pieces with no trouble at all. But I will deliberately refuse to speak in red. I will refuse to speak because that is what you want. Do you understand why? You just said it. You want to push him off at the sweetest spot. This ill-natured witch is saying that she won't use the red anywhere you ask for it anymore. In other words, she won't play along with your game of repetition requests anymore. Exactly. Unlike Battler, everything goes quickly with this woman. There's never need to explain. I will speak as I like with the red truth at the time that I desire. Yes, the use of the red truth is basically a right the witch has to exercise as she pleases. It's not a responsibility that she has to fulfill at whatever time the human size desires. But that depends on the details. Details? What do you mean? The witch has no responsibility to respond at your repetition requests. But when and only when your claim would destroy the witch theory, it does become a responsibility. Because in this court without a judge, the witch is not refuted. That which is not refuted becomes the truth. In just the same way that whenever you stop thinking and being unable to make a counter-argument against the witch's theory asserted by the witch, it has immediately become true. It has immediately become truth. Then, since the Then, since she doesn't have a counter-argument to my reasoning, that means it's right? I'm correct in my deduction that the culprit is the mysterious 18th person X and grandfather is already dead. At least until the witch argues back. Truth loses to new truths farther in the future. The tricky part is that even the timing of the counter-argument is up to the witch. In other words, maybe your reasoning just as now is correct, or maybe the witch is holding off on an argument back, even though you're mistaken. Or else, the witch may be ignoring it because it doesn't shake the basis of the witch theory in the first place. The point is, we can't tell the difference at the current time. Is that more or less it? Damn you, Lady Berncastle. No, damn you, Lady Berncastle, for throwing in such a troublesome piece. Thanks to that, I'm losing all my lines. The witch has learned to respond to your repetitions request at a separate time. Maybe you could also call it a delay. God damn it. So even if I offer some mistaken reasoning, there is a possibility that Beato will intentionally let me flounder about without disproving it, and that at the very end, after I've built up even more into some grand expansive theory, she can chop it off at the base and turn everything over. A single piece of reasoning becomes the bridge to the next piece. Through my repetitions requests, I've been able to strengthen my position and advance bit by bit. But thanks to that damn Beato learning this strange delay tactic, I can no longer confirm or deny my reasoning. It's like I finally got myself a cane to help me search around in a pitch-black darkness, and now I had it taken away from me. Now I'm just stuck, aren't I? Now, Battler, if you make a despairing... Now, Battler, if you make a despairing face like that, I won't be able to stop drooling, you know? From the beginning, that king was nothing more than something I gave you because you were so ineffectual. This just means that you can finally challenge me without a handicap, right? But that doesn't change the fact that repetitions requests are one of Battler's methods of fighting back. As I already said, as long as it's something fatal that would destroy the witch theory, the witch is obligated to argue back and therefore to speak with the red truth. While the timing of that counter-argument is up to the witch, it must be performed eventually, right? That would seem to follow. If I cannot deny the tricks done by humans, theory, Battler lays out by the end. If I cannot deny the tricks done by human theory, Battler lays out by the end of the game. By the time the game ends, Battler will use that as a reason to deny me, and it will be possible for him to proclaim his victory. So then the trick theory, laid out by the human side, in other words, his repetitions request, must be countered during the game, i.e. during the episode. We can view this as a restriction on the witch's side to that effect. That is so. Battler's goal is to show that he can explain the humans the entire pleasant game I have laid out on the... Battler's goal is to show that he can explain with humans the entire pleasant game I have laid out on this island and deny me. If Battler succeeds in that at that time, Battler shall become the victor of this game. Let me confirm the rules. Am I okay to interpret that the time the game ends as referring to 24 on October 5th, 1986, going by the time of Rokkenjima in the game? There are no problems with that. If, at the time the game ends, the human side can assert a trick theory for all of the mysteries, and there is no counter-argument from the witch's side, then the human side can declare victory. Any problems?
もう少し厳密とし
Let us be a little more rigorous. At the time the game ends, the which side shall be given the opportunity to argue back.
時間を切ってもらうわ
I'll set a time limit on
1
that.
分よ
1 minute.
1分以内に
If
反
the
論が
counter
行われ
argument
ない
is
場合
not carried out
勝利が
within
宣
1
言される
minute,
ものとする
victory will be declared.
ならば同じルールを
Then
そちら
allow
に
me
も
to
課さ
impose
せ
the
て
same rule to you. At the time the game ends, the human side will be given 1 minute to counteract the mysteries it has been given.
その時間内に
If there is a single mystery that has not been countered within that time, it becomes the victory for the witch side and the game is over.
証拠を理由にゲ
It
ーム
would
を
spoil things terribly to have the game stopped for lengthy considerations, you see. God damn you both, moving things along without me. But I more or less get what's going on. So even if my repetitions requests are encountered instantly, they must be countered eventually. Yes, that's right. And that must happen before 01 on October 6th. But be careful. The witch only has to cut up a single one of your repetitions requests and can't declare victory unless you can solve all of the mysteries. Just as I can use the red Battler, from now on, I will permit you to use the blue. When explaining my magical murders with human tricks, you can make declarations in blue. I will be under obligation to counter your blue with the red by the end of the game. Blue. So basically I'll speak my repetitions requests in blue? Not exactly. It was possible to use repetitions requests for anything, no matter how trivial. But the blue is a little more restrictive. It only validates if it denies witches on its own. It's starting to get confusing, but it's more or less something like this. Let's take one of the repetitions requests I've made during a past mystery as an example. The number of master keys is 5. It had been claimed that there were only 5 master keys, so I made this request to confirm that the number was really 5. But since that by itself doesn't deny the witch, I can't say it in blue. So in order to speak it in blue, I would need to say something like this. The actual number of master keys was greater than 5. The culprit used one of those extra keys to get in and out of the room. And only then would the witch who claimed that it was a locked room murder with magic be responsible for making a counter-argument. In other words, I can use it to demand that she repeat things in order to check the premise of my reasoning. That will probably put me at a significant disadvantage. Crap. It's enough to make me think that all of those red declarations that Beato's been making to toy with me were extremely merciful. Dai, provate allora, dai. Damn it! That means that even if I can create a theory for a particularly locked room and speak it in blue, if Beato denies it at the very end, I won't even have time to create my next theory. This rule is awful. It's all disadvantage for me and me alone. Are you going to surrender before the fight begins again? Calm down. No one said that you can use blue, no one said that you can only use the blue once for each mystery. Do you understand what that means? What does it mean? In the pitiful way you've been fighting up until now, you've made a single theory gauge the witch's reaction, and if that one didn't work, you'd then start making another theory. You won't corner a witch like that. Then how am I meant to fight? You don't mean... Yes, that's right. You don't challenge the mysteries with an individual point. You assault them with a wall. You said yourself in an earlier game that that's what the attitude behind reasoning should be like. Assault with a wall. That's right, I have said so myself before. The act of trying to uncover the mystery by reasoning is like trying to shoot a distant target with an arrow. Until now, I've been shooting off a single flimsy arrow every time, asking the witch if I scored a hit, and then, once told that I missed, preparing my bow again and shooting off another flimsy arrow. There's no way I'll hit at that rate. Bullets might be a better example than arrows. If you take one shot after another at a distant target with a handgun, you probably won't hit it easily. So how can you hit it? If a handgun doesn't work, use a shotgun. Instead of a single bullet, blaster with shot filled with countless projectiles at once. Shot scatters so it impacts a wide area. So it's very well suited for shooting small, fast targets like birds. That's right, there's no rule that says reasoning has to be like a pistol, shooting one shot at a time. Making a single theory just hoping that it hits it, it's like stopping your own thinking. Blast away with a massive number of bullets, of pieces of reasoning, and make them impact like a wall, so you need only just one of them to find its mark.
Oh.
Blue, huh? I get it. If your red truth is a razor sharp katana, then it looks like my blue is a shotgun. No, a machine gun with firepower enough to honeycomb witches. He that is always shooting must... scusami? He that is always shooting must something. The sort of crude analogy is just like you. The climax of a detective novel is always the same. The great and famous detective gathers all the suspects in one place and unveils a single trail of logic which is proven correct in spectacular fashion. Almost like William Tell expertly shooting through an apple with a single arrow. That's why I mistakenly thought of it as a virtue. Sure, that probably would be magnificent if I could shoot through the truth with a single guess, but it isn't realistic. Just like at real wars, do I really think everyone pulls long guns out of the trench, aims really well and takes a single shot at a time at the other side? They don't, right? They fire rapidly, they fire all over the place, they pin down the enemy with a barrage. Reasoning was the same way. Because of that weird virtue, I have been struck thinking that I could only take on one reasoning at a time. We humans can fire off countless guesses and possibilities. Imagination is ammunition. Suspension of thought is a clogged barrel. The pathetic way I've been reasoning up until now, it's like a pea shooter. Incredibly awkward, like I've been weakly firing off a shot, getting the eye in red and then receiving the next bullet and reloading. My blue truth, that claims that human tricks are the truth, will overwhelm its target, the fantasy told by the witch, with all the firepower of my imagination. This is my Nuova Battler style way of fighting. Thanks to you, I figured out the real way to fight. Thanks, Gretel. Allora, Jover, non proprio... È troppo vaga come cosa, dovresti fare un'affermazione, per dire qualcosa in blu, devi fare un'affermazione che va contro la spiegazione delle streghe. Cioè, come ha detto prima, l'esempio di prima era perfetto, non puoi dire ci sono più di 5, ci sono solo 5 master keys, devi dire... Ci sono più di... devi fare una ringa, praticamente. Ci sono più di 5 master keys e il colpevole ha usato una di queste altre 5 una di queste 5 più X master keys per chiudere la porta dopo aver commesso l'omicidio. Così non è una closed room. In questo caso tu stai accusando la strega che la sua versione dei fatti non è realistica, perché se esiste un umano con un altro paio di chiavi può aprire e chiudere, non è una closed room, non c'è bisogno di magia per aprire, fare, cosare, e quindi a un certo punto la strega dovrà usare il rosso per distruggere la tua teoria. Ecco, tu devi avanzare una teoria con il blu, E questa teoria deve avere come obiettivo ovviamente distruggere l'illusione della strega. Solo se questa teoria solo se poni questa tua opinione come una teoria contro la strega, allora è valido come blue truth e la strega dovrà si dice dovrà risponderci, ecco. Esatto, Birchwood argument, nuova meccanica sbloccata. You're welcome. It's enough to make me think how pathetic I was before. Yeah, that's just like Beato said. I had the benefit of a handicap up until now. I'll acknowledge that. New rule, understood. I have my own way to fight, and I'll show it to you. Dai, parla, iniziamo subito, mostra un blue Battler. Excellent spirit, I like it. Then try using it right away, this blue truth of yours. Yeah, I'll use it, alright. With this blue truth, I can break apart your witch theory, which states that only a witch culprit was possible because everyone had alibis. This is my truth. Ushiromi Akinzo is already dead. Therefore, the true number of people on the island is 17. By adding an unknown person X to that, it becomes 18 people. By supporting that this person X exists, the crime is possible even if all of 17 people have alibis. Bravo Battlerino. In short, if you keep preventing us from meeting with Father, we will have to form the following theory. Simply, Father is already dead. But you are hiding that because you don't want the inheritance to be distributed, see? Distributed, see? Ridiculous. That is correct. It is worse than ridiculous. I've never been so insulted. It's even possible for us to force you to allow us to check whether he's alive or dead in the presence of the police. Isn't it, Evanescence? Yes. That's right, Nissan. We could come up with any number of excuses for it. We would easily set it up so you have to arrange a meeting with Father under the supervision of a third party. Still, I think that it would be very shameful for the Ushiromiya family. That's why I'm making this proposal. The responsibilities and duties of the caregiver, a penalty in the worst case scenario. If you consent to that, we will be able to refrain from doing something like dragging Father outside. Yeah, that's right, Aniki. Didn't you just say it? You're carrying out your natural duties as Father's caregiver. Kirya's conditions shouldn't be anything to worry about, right? Why the overreaction? Are you really that worried about having your position of successor dragged out from under you if Dad dies something other than a natural death? Or what? Do you have an idea of some way Father could die other than a natural death? Of course I don't. I see. Now I do understand how Father feels. What pitiful final years, unable to even die as he pleases. Yes, truly pitiful final years. And what we suspect is that those final years are already in the past. You could completely clear this suspicion just by letting us meet with Father. So even after all of this humiliation, you still won't allow us to meet with him, Kraus-Nissan? Father is
すでに亡く
probably
なってい
already
る
dead.
おそらく遺体は
You disposed of the
5
body
階
in
のうちの
absolute
どこかに処分し
secrecy,
たで
most
しょう
likely.
そして
And after
お父様
taking
の
all
代
of
理
the
という
wealth
こと
for
で財
yourself
産を
as
独占
Father's
した
agent,
失踪したことに
you
し
will
て
make it so that
7
he
年かけて
disappeared and
お
spent
父様を
7 years
死体なき
making
死者
Father a
にする
corpseless member of the deceased.
ごめんなさいね
I'm sorry,
気弱
please
に
don't
し
take
ない
it
で
badly,
これ
alright?
はあくまでも
I'm just playing
私の
detective here.
推理ごっこだから無礼極まりない
How rude can one be?
あなたに
You have no
この
right
屋
to
敷
stay
に
in
と
this
どまり
mansion.
即刻退場なさい
Leave immediately.
二度と当家の
I
敷居を
will
また
never
ぐこと
again
を
permit you to
許しま
cross
せん
this threshold of a
去
house.
年通用した
of this
手が
house.
今年もまた
It
通用
worked
する
last
と思っ
year,
たの
but
が
you've
運の
used
尽
up
き
all
ね
of your luck if you thought it would work this year too.
お父様はご機嫌
Father's
斜
in
め
a
だから
bad
面
mood
会でき
and he
ない
can't meet with
去
us.
年の時点で
That
十分
was
不審だ
plenty
ったのに
suspicious last
今
year,
年もだなん
and
て
yet you do it again this year.
お父様の代理を
If you
語り
wanted to fake
財産を
father's
乗っ取るなら
being father's
もっと
agent
スピー
and
ディー
grab
にや
up
っ
of
て
all his assets, you should have done it a little more
今日の
speedily
親族会議
and
を
make
待
him
たずに
disappear
失踪
without
させるべきだった
waiting
わ
for
ね
today's family
さ
conference.
すがに甘いわよ
You really are naive,
クラウス
Kraus
お兄様
Onisama.
君が何のことを言ってい
I
る
have
か
no
私に
idea
は
what you are.
でもお
However,
父様がご機嫌斜め
if
な
it
のは
is
事
a
実
fact
で
that father is in a bad mood, you are preventing us from meeting him as part of your
私
responsibility
た
as
ち
a
の面会を
caregiver.
拒んでるのだとしたら
That is very
それ
that
は
is a
とても
very
立派な
virtuous
こと
thing
よ
to do.
ねなら
In that case,
私の出した
if
条
you
件を
just
飲んでくれ
accept the
れば
conditions I've
この場は
provided,
収まるわ
everything will be settled here and now.
何しろ
After
お
all,
父様の
you
ことを
care
こんな
so
にも大
greatly
切に
for
するク
Father
ラウス兄さんです
Kraus-Nissan.
お父様に
There is no
検
way
視
that
されて
father
困
will
るよ
die
う
in
な
a
死に
manner
方
that
が
leads
ある
to
わけがない
trouble during the
い
autopsy.
ずれにせよ
Father
お父
hates
様は病院
hospitals
嫌
in
い
any
なんだ
case,
から
so
書
he'll
斎
pass
がなく
away in
なる
his
でしょう
study,
ねい
right?
ずれにせよ
An autopsy will
必ず検視は
certainly be
行われ
carried
るわ
out in any
検
event.
視を逃れて
The only
殺
way
す
to
に
kill
は
him without an
失踪しかない
autopsy would be to make him disappear.
キリエさん
Kirie-san, I wonder if you wouldn't mind not bullying Nissan so much. Eva rebuked Kiri in a sickeningly kind voice. Considering the situation, that was impossible, which is why it was so
兄さん
sickening.
にもいろいろと都合
Nissan, must you
や
have all
不
kinds
満
of
もあるはず
situations, must have all kinds of situations of his own to deal with, as well as his
兄さんに
pride.
とって当
Even
然
though
の
it
義務
may
であっ
be
ても
obvious duty to Nissan, if he put it down on paper and even assigning penalties, that would bound to be unpleasant for him.
ねえローザ
Don't you agree, Rosa?
そうね
Yes, that's
クラウ
right.
ス兄さんの
We
長男
might
として
have
の
made
プライ
light
ドを
of
軽ん
Kraus
じすぎたか
Nissan's
もしれない
pride
わ
as the eldest son. Too much. Ah.
キリエさんの言うよ
It
うな
might be a bit cruel to make him sign a memorandum regarding the duties as a caregiver, as Kirie-san
そう
suggests.
ね
Yes, I
兄貴はよく
agree.
やってくれ
You
た
are doing a good job,
そこを汲
Aniki.
み取り
Taking that into account, all of the stuff about
第
us
一の時は
signing
ペナ
papers.
ルティとか
Taking that into account, all of that stuff about signing papers, strange papers, and worst case
そういう
penalties,
話を抜
it
きに
might
し
be
て
possible for us to
兄貴に
consider
全部一任
skipping all
す
of
ること
that,
を
just leaving
考えて
everything
も
to
いいか
you.
もお前ら
People. Not just Eva, but Rudolf and Rosa as well began closing in on Kraus, with unnerving smiles on their faces as though they had planned this beforehand. Now they understood perfectly how Kiri had cornered Kraus, and exactly where she was prepared to compromise.
世話人の責務につ
The
いては
memorandum
覚えな
regarding
き
the responsibilities of the
これにサインす
caregiver,
ることなく
you can make it so that you don't need to sign, and we will never demand a meeting with Father
覚書き
again.
などなくても
If you can guarantee that you are fit to be the caregiver even without the document, that is,
私に
are
その
you
保証
telling
金を
me
支払えという
to pay security money?
これはおかし
This is
い
ludicrous.
保証金は
The security money paid to Eva, Rudolf-san, and Roda-san will be 3 billion yen each.
手付金として
As a
その
deposit,
1割の3億円ずつを
transfer 10%
今
of
年度中に振り
that,
込んでもらう
300 million each, before this year is out.
90億だと
9 billion?
そんな金はな
I
い
don't have that kind of money. As after father passes away, you should be able to work it out. Our investigations have told us at least that much. And even the deposit of 900 million yen you should be able to manage in your current financial situation. And it should even be possible for you to borrow it from father, right? There's no need for this obvious charade. How unpleasant. Truly unpleasant. Is that? It is that. And it was disrespectful enough just with the discussion of father's inheritance. Father is already dead? My husband is hiding that and keeping all the money to himself? I had enough of this. None of you are qualified to bear the name of Ushiromiya any longer. Calm down, Natsui-san. And the rest of you, that's enough talk for now. Why don't we leave it at that for the time being, huh? This is a big old topic and sudden too. We might be getting a little worked up ourselves. Why don't we take a break for a while and cool our heads? Kraus-Nissan probably needs a little time himself. Right, Kraus-san? Time? And why would I need something like that? Okay. Look, deep down, none of us are actually thinking anything serious like that. It just seems like you weren't going to let us see father no matter what. So we felt like making a few bitter comments, that's all. And Kraus-san, the things we said made you angry and you argued back on instinct. I know real well what that feels like. That's not how you feel either. You're actually thinking fine. I'll let you see him if you're going... Mamma mia. That's not how you're actually feel either. You're actually thinking fine. I'll let you see him if you're going to be like a pig-headed... Mamma mia, scusate, non riesco a capire la frase. Fammi rileggere tutto. And Kraus-Nissan, the things we said made you angry and you argued back on instinct. I know real well what that's like. And that's not how you really feel either. You're actually thinking fine. I'll let you see him if you're going to be a big pig-headed about it. Right? Isn't that right? But after all we've said, you just couldn't help getting stubborn, and now you're having trouble saying it all right, saying that it's all right to see him. That's all. Isn't that? Right. It certainly does seem that, like the rest of you, my husband has slightly lost his composure. We are firmly refusing only out of respect for father's desire not to meet with you. That's right. It just started turning into another sibling fight like the old days, and I grew stubborn as well. Let us cool our heads. I understand now how strongly you all desire to meet with father. I will pass that on to him. I will find some way of convincing him that he will see you. So, how is that? Right. I think it's alright to give Kraus-Nissan some time to persuade father. Yeah. We're counting on you, Aniki. Please do a good job of persuading him so that he'll meet with us. After all, your dad caregiver. After persuading him, let's set a limit on it to sometime tonight, alright? When tomorrow comes, we'll confirm father's well-being, even if we have to break down the door to his study. Do you have any problems with that, right, Nissan? Do as you like. I see. It seems that I'm not given much time to persuade him. Come on, Natsui. We shall ask him to at least be with us for dinner. Yes. Kraus left the parlor accompanied by Natsui. Once their footsteps disappeared, Hideyoshi breathed out heavily and flopped onto the sofa smirking. You are a frightening person. Sorry for speaking out of turn. I apologize. No, you cornered him in a different way from the original plan, but in the end, this was even better. Just like always, I have to bow my head to you.
でも9
But
億円
can
も
we
用意
really
できる
prepare
のかしら。
900 million
クラウス
yen?
兄さんの
We
財政状況
estimated
ギ
that
リギリで
7,000
7.5億の限界と私たちは計算したはず。
750 million would be the most Kraus Nissan could afford with his current financial
9
situation.
億は
Isn't 900 million gouging him too
無
much?
理なら無理でいいのよ。
It's alright if it's impossible
ク
for
ラウス
him.
兄さんの顔を
If we
立て
do
て
something like lowering to 750 million to Kraus Nissans can save face, it will look like we're compromising and it'll be easier to settle,
本当に
right?
9億出てきたなら
If he
大
really
正解
does come out with 900 million, that's even better.
兄さん、今頃夏
Nissan is probably having a strategy meeting with Natsui-san about now. It will be truly interesting. What kind of logic our proud Nissan comes up with as an excuse?
お父さんを説得
Convince father?
できるわけない
There's no way he can. There's no way to convince someone who doesn't even exist. Ma questo è lo studio di Kinzo. All of my siblings has taken time out of their schedules to come here to this annual family conference. Kraus and Natsui could be seeing Kinzo's dimly lit study. Every once in a while, thunder could be heard and the dimly lit room flickered with light. It seems that the island would be closed off by the storm very soon.
お父様
Father,
どうか今一度
please, just this once, show those disrespectful people the majesty of your head. It's no good. Fa dame da zen dame da se. The large figure standing by the window, his majestic back facing them, quietly, yet forcefully, gave his answer. His head was hung slightly, and he appeared to be trembling. Eventually, a mumbling laugh reached them from over his shoulder. È una cosa di famiglia allora. Non me la ricordavo minimamente sta cosa. Ha veramente fatto Dame da Zen zen dame da ze. "3 months left to live? A senile old man not long for this world? Just who are you referring to?" Orokamonoga! Brain dead fool. Your siblings intimidated you, so you come over crawling over here, isn't that it? You are a disgrace. As Kinzo spun around and brandished his cloak, a blast of wind shook up the stale air inside the room. C'è la cosa, c'ha la cappa così forte che si gira, fa e tipo that air pressure Dragon Ball. That air pressure expressed clearly the majesty and willpower of Ushiromiya Kinzo. It was no wonder at all that Kraus landed on his backside, as if that pressure had literally blown him to the ground. È caduto per terra di culo. Scusatemi, fammi spostare sta cosa. C'è Kinzo di spalle. No, aspetta. C'è Kinzo di spalle. Si gira. Sì, ecco, così. Con la sua cloak fa un'aria così forte che Kraus fa tipo oh. Che ridere. As though showing consideration for Kraus, who looked as though his legs has been swept out from under him, Natsui also crouched down. Then, with a thunk and another thunk, Kinzo's footsteps approached with a heft that signified his majesty.
お父さん
Father.
バカやカノンに聞いておる貴様が弟たちにどれほど情けなく
You
手玉に取ら
fool!
れたかを
I've heard it all from Canon. Just how pathetically your siblings made you dance like a puppet.
お父様
Father,
夫はお父様
my
の名誉を
husband is
守る
doing his
ために
best to protect your honor. Without lending an ear to Natsui's words, Kinzo extended his palm to Kraus' collar as the latter sat onto the floor. He curled up his fingers, leaving only his index finger out, and then, with the one remaining finger, he pressed hard into Kraus' collar, twisted it, and slowly, with just one finger, raised Kraus high into the air. Ma stiamo parlando di Kinzo Ushiromiya o di, non so, Yujiro Hanma? Non ho capito, arriva così, un dito e lo tira su.
情けないやつだな
Truly, what a pathetic creature you are.
妻に自分の弁解を
You even need your wife to speak in your defense.
言い訳くらい
If you have no excuse, man up and show me that you can give it yourself. Kraus' feet scrabbled at the air. Cioè, lo sta tirando su così. Kinzo's brawny finger was choking him. He couldn't even open his mouth, much less talk. However, even if he had been allowed to open his mouth, as he was now, there was no way he would be able to think up an excuse that Kinzo would accept. Still, what an incredible power he possessed. No one would call Kinzo an old man after seeing this superhuman strength.
お父様
E lui ha dedicato metà della sua vita a leggere libri di occulto e fare rituali e minchia, a spingere. Quanto fai di bench, Kinzo?
夫はお隣に戦いました
Father, my husband, he has his own way of fighting. I beg of you, forgive him.
夏戦いという
Fighting is the process you undergo before you achieve victory.
負けるまでの過程は
You
戦い
cannot
と
call it fighting if it ends in a loss. Sono molto d'accordo, Kinzo.
それはただ一言
Just one word.
飛ばないと
We
いう
call that humiliation.
これが私の
This is my
後継ぎだという
successor.
のか
No, Kinzo non c'è nel picchiaduro, ma dopo questo ci dovrebbe essere. Dovevano metterlo. As thunder roared, Kinzo laughed heartedly, as though there could have been nothing more amusing. At the end of the laugh, he threw his feckless son away like he was scrap paper, slamming him against the wall. Vabbè. È vero, Jover. Hai assolutamente ragione.
あなたしっかり
My love, just breathe. Klaus slid down the wall, rubbing his throat in pain. Natsui up to him and cared for him, but Kinzo showed no interest in the two of them, and he returned to the space near the window as though he had been there the whole time and looked up at the ominous thunderclouds. I thought that as long as I couldn't meet Beatrice, I would have no regrets in my life. But it seemed that things won't go so smoothly. I was promised from the beginning that nothing received from the witch will remain. However, the Ushiromiya name is not property of the witch. Who is fit to succeed that name? It seems that this alone must be resolved by my own hand. Rejoice, Kraus. I have changed my mind.
お父さ
Father,
んでは
then you...
貴様ら
I have no desire to have dinner with you, cowards. However, I will attend the family conference afterwards.
お父様、ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
私はその
There.
席上で
I shall make an important announcement regarding the succession of the headship.
お前たちのくだ
I will resolve your foolish quarrel myself.
解決してやる
Caspita, sono già le... abbiamo appena finito un capitolo e mancano 9 minuti alle... Ecco. No, gente, dobbiamo fermarci qui.